Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to break down the exact strategies you need to pull yourself out of a massive academic slump. So if you've been feeling totally lost, overwhelmed, or just completely derailed in your studies lately, take a deep breath. You are absolutely in the right place. Think of this as your own personal coaching session for success. We're taking the insights from a really powerful roadmap for academic recovery and translating them into a clear, actionable guide. And the best part, you can start using this today.
Okay, let's just acknowledge exactly where you might be right now. You tried, you failed, you tried again, and you failed again. You cried, maybe you even had panic attacks. Look, it's painfully honest and incredibly tough to face. You might have spent this entire year dealing with overwhelming anxiety, facing setbacks, and just feeling totally stressed about your goals. But you know what? This exact moment of hitting rock bottom, it's actually your wake-up call. It's time to remember your true strength, because you are way better than this current situation, and it is entirely possible to pick yourself up and out of that dark tunnel.
Here's how we're going to do this. First, hitting rock bottom. 2, vision meets execution. 3, mastering time and efficiency. 4, the reading and solving cycle. And finally, 5, fueling your comeback. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, hitting rock bottom and how to turn failure into fuel.
Now, I want you to consider this very specific number, 6.64. According to our source material, this was a real student's CGPA during their very first college semester. I mean, they almost completely failed a subject. It was a failure so absolutely crushing that it led to tears on a phone call with their mom. And hey, it might feel kind of embarrassing to admit crying over grades, but a surprising number of top students go through this extreme academic shock in their first year. But here's the crazy part. That moment of total defeat, that absolute lowest point, that was actually the exact turning point that changed the game for them.
Just look at the trajectory here. By actually taking the time to deeply reflect on why precious time was being wasted, their entire academic journey flipped. I mean, they went from a near-failing 6.64, pushed it over a 7, then over an 8, and eventually broke that super elusive 9 CGPA barrier. And it all culminated in graduating with literally one of the highest packages in their entire class. Look, it takes an incredible amount of grit to keep pushing when you're starting from the bottom. But this massive multi-semester transformation proves one crucial thing. A disastrous start is just data, you guys. It is not your destiny. Moving right along to Section 2, vision meets execution and planning your rebound. So here is the immediate action step you absolutely must take after finishing this explainer. You need to sit in total isolation for 10 to 15 minutes. And I mean total isolation. No phone, no music, no distractions. Why? Because you need to starve your brain of that cheap dopamine and force yourself to confront the uncomfortable reality of what actually went wrong. You need to ask yourself the hard questions. Why did you score so low? How and why did you waste so much time? Just taking those few minutes alone with yourself is going to give you the clarity you need to figure out exactly how to spend the rest of your available time chasing those goals. You see, you really have to balance two competing forces to make this comeback work. Having a massive goal without actually putting in the work? Well, that's just daydreaming. It's basically a hallucination. But on the flip side, working furiously like a busy bee without a clear strategic plan? That's just blind foolishness. You've got to combine that raw, uncomfortable reflection we literally just talked about with real, tangible execution.
Okay, let's jump into Section 3, mastering time and efficiency. This is the tactical breakdown.
If you're constantly making plans to study for hours but you never actually stick to them, you're battling procrastination. And to defeat it, you've got to implement strict time blocking for your study sessions. Honestly, before you even open a single book, you must answer 4 very strict questions. What are you studying? When are you starting? How long is the block? And most importantly, what exactly is the final output you're going to finish? Consistency gives you clarity, and answering these 4 questions ensures you aren't just feeling busy, but actually getting something measurable done. Now, to really master your time, you've got to understand Parkinson's law. This is the psychological principle that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. And here's a wild, fun fact. Studies show that without strict parameters, we spend up to 40% of our designated study time just, organizing materials or getting distracted. We are constantly overestimating how long a task will take. If you give yourself a loose deadline, I guarantee you're going to take that entire time. Instead, try this. If a task should take 3 hours, give yourself 2 tight hours to force efficiency. Set a timer, cut the external distractions, and then use that 3rd hour as a well-earned break. Honestly, you'll be shocked at how fast you become. But what if you just have a couple of months left and you physically cannot study every single page?
Well, you have to ruthlessly prioritize. You need to identify the concepts that deliver the maximum results on the actual exam. Always start with chapters that are both easy to grasp and carry high weightage. And hey, don't forget to reverse engineer your study plan by analyzing previous year questions. You're looking for recurring patterns, repeated formulas, favored topics. Basically, let the exam's own history dictate your precise focus.
That brings us to Section 4, the reading and solving cycle. Time to execute the reps.
Okay, so a really major problem is when you understand concepts during lectures, but then completely freeze up when it comes to actual exam questions. We've all been there, right? This is driven by something called the illusion of competence. It's this psychological trap where simply recognizing text on a page makes you think you can recall it from scratch. But just reading the theory isn't enough. You only truly get good at solving exam questions by relentlessly practicing them. So here's the cycle. You read the theory, you understand the concept, and then you immediately practice questions. That practice leads to a deeper understanding, which in turn makes you way faster at solving. It is a continuous, absolute must-do cycle. If you try to bypass this, the illusion is going to break, and you simply won't perform on exam day.
And finally, Section 5, fueling your comeback, getting your physical foundation right.
Listen, treating your body like an athlete in training, and I'm talking proper diet and strict sleep schedules, is a mandatory requirement for high-level mental performance. Think about this for a second. Your brain literally consumes roughly 20% of your body's total energy. You cannot fuel a high-performance cognitive comeback on junk food and 3 hours of sleep. It just doesn't work. All those brilliant study tactics, the time locking, the prioritization we just talked about, they will completely collapse if you don't build a strong physical foundation to support the intense academic strain you're about to endure.
As we wrap up this explainer, there is one critical truth I really need you to internalize. The biggest comebacks usually come right after hitting rock bottom. It takes immense discipline and just raw self-belief to stick to the schedule we just mapped out. But being at your absolute lowest point right now, that isn't the end of your story. Actually, it just means you have a super solid, undeniable foundation to push off from.
You know, you can run from a lot of things in life, but you can't escape your own mind. It's time to stop beating yourself up over the time you've lost or the grades that have dropped. Reflect, plan, time lock your execution, practice relentlessly, and fuel your body properly. The whole blueprint is literally laid out right in front of you. So the only question left to answer is this. A year from now, is this moment going to be remembered as the day you gave up, or the exact day your legendary academic comeback finally began?